You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be recapping Kentucky basketball's 103-62 season opening victory over Wright State. A lot of positives to take away from this one. Wildcats playing about as efficiently as you possibly could on the offensive end. Defensively, saw a lot of things that I was very impressed with. Some surprise stars here in this contest. Some players that maybe took a back seat in a way that we didn't expect. We're going to dive into all of it on today's show. You can start the season with a big return over on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. You can visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. And if you are watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show. And if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Final score of this game, like I mentioned, 103-62. Wildcats open the season 1-0. 41-point victory for Mark Pope in his first game. In case you don't know, Pope wore number 41 during his time with the Wildcats. First thing I want to do here is get this out of the way. We're not going to dive too much into it because we're going to save the advanced analytics for games down the line. KenPom, a website that I really love, big analytics website. It's something that the NCAA Tournament Committee factors into their seeding at the end of the year. Wildcats opened the year in KenPom, number 42 in the country. They have jumped up after just one game. We'll see how everything shakes out over the course of the next several days as teams kind of get things going. Obviously, not every single college basketball team started their season today, but the Cats jumping up from number 42 to number 35 after this win, currently have the 60th best defense in the country, 17th best offense, pace of play, top 62 nationally. There are some other individual statistics you could go over, like effective field goal percentage, the percentages in terms of offensive rebounds and rebounds period, how point distribution works. We're going to dive into all of that as we get deeper into the season, but I wanted you guys to know off the top, the team, analytically, I think is going to rise. And performances like this are just simply going to make that rise, I think, happen sooner rather than later. I do expect it to kind of be a developing thing. I think that computer models are really going to have to take a minute to figure out what Kentucky truly is this season, especially considering most of their non-conference slate is littered with kind of the same team in terms of really fast-paced, likes to shoot threes, very, very high octane, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's going to take a minute for analytics to really figure out, again, what this Kentucky team ceiling is and where they should truly rank nationally. With that being said, I think a lot of you would agree, just watching Kentucky play tonight, that they're probably a little bit better than their number 23 ranking suggests. Now, is Kentucky going to play as efficiently on offense as they did tonight every single game? Hard to believe so. But again, it was just an incredible performance. We saw this stuff like this in the first exhibition game against Kentucky Wesleyan, and now you're getting to see stuff here. Overarching stats here. Kentucky for the game, shot 60% from the floor. 60%. They shot 61.8% in the second half. Really churned things on there for the first, I would say, 14, 15 minutes of the second half as things kind of began to wind down. Obviously, Kentucky did as well. They ended up shooting 60% from the floor, though. 45.8% from three. They shot 46.7% from beyond the arc in the second half. They went 11 of 24 from beyond the arc. And this is kind of where I wanted to start with the overarching stats. Kentucky shot very well in this game. Very efficient. But they did not take as many threes as the coaching staff has said they want to. They want to take 35 threes a game. They fell short of that mark by a considerable margin in this contest. Why? Why did they do that? Well, it's because of the way that Wright State elected to play defense against Kentucky. They left a lot on the plate in terms of backdoor cuts, drives to the rim. They were really focused on trying to push Kentucky off of the three-point line, and they were not terribly successful in doing so in terms of efficiency, but they did a good job of it in terms of volume. So the Cats, not shooting a ton of threes, but shooting very well when they had the opportunity to shoot threes. 11 of 24. I don't think anybody is really going to scoff at that. An offensive performance, I think that a lot of people are really impressed with out of the gates. 30 assists in this game to just 7 turnovers. Another really impressive statistic. The Cats had so many different guys with at least 3 assists in this game. They had 3 different players with 5 assists, one of them being backup center Brandon Garrison, who really got in on the action there. 5 assists, no turnovers. So impressed with the way that this Kentucky team played on offense. We'll continue the conversation here. Again, breaking down Kentucky basketball's season-opening victory over Wright State. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan is not just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime. And that's why they've created the Stan the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot, with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made for super fans just like us. The fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. You know what else gave me a bit of Fan Fuel this week from Kentucky? It's obviously the highlighted performance, I think, from Amari Williams, dunking over everybody on that lob in the first half against Wright State. Really impressed with the way that Williams played. Obviously, we'll talk about it later on in the show. But explosive Kentucky was around the rim. They had dunks in this game, had some high, flashy plays around the rim on defense as well. Love the energy that the Cats gave in this win. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter which team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. And that's why the limited edition Stan the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. It's available on 5hourenergy.com and it's shipped nationwide. Again, all of that available over at 5hourenergy.com. All right, continuing along here on the Monday evening edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. I really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so. Again, breaking down our recap of Kentucky versus Wright State, 103-62 Wildcats, offensive explosion in their season-opening victory. All right, let's talk a little bit here about Kentucky basketball's defense in this game. Obviously, like I mentioned, offense played great. Defensively, according to KenPom, Kentucky jumped 11 spots nationally after this game, holding Wright State to 62 points. KenPom expected, I believe, Wright State to score 69. And in terms of percentages, in terms of efficiencies, Kentucky did pretty well. For the game, Kentucky held Wright State to just 35.3% shooting from the floor. They held them to 18.5% from beyond the arc, just 5 of 27. Both those numbers, very, very good. Kentucky, active, energetic. They were flying all over the place. Did they get caught a couple of different times around the rim? Yes, they did. Did they also recover at different times, affect shots, force misses, grab rebounds? Yes, they did. I liked what I saw from Kentucky on the defensive end, but I'm not quite sure it was an incredibly elite performance on that end of the floor. I think Wright State missed some open threes. They also hit some really tough jumpers inside the arc, so maybe I'm not giving Kentucky enough credit here. But there was not a ton of havoc There was just simply not a ton of chaos, I think. And Kentucky did a really good job of forcing some of that chaos against teams like, again, Kentucky Wesleyan and Minnesota State. In this game, though, you look at the statistics, you still like them. They had 11 steals. Wright State had 12 turnovers on the game. Turnover rate, not incredibly high, but still you were able to force 11 steals. And off of that, you cashed in pretty consistently. You were able to get 36 fast break points in this game total. You had 18 points off of turnovers. I really don't complain when it comes to those categories, but I think against more physical, stronger teams, it will be interesting to see how Kentucky's guards do hold up if they're able to create as many steals, if they're able to get out in transition and execute as well as they did in this game. Again, not the most elite performance, but definitely a promising start. This is definitely a step above what Kentucky was doing a season ago on defense, for sure. They are actually guarding different things. They're actually playing with energy. They are communicating. They're stopping stuff at the rim. I loved what I saw on defense. If they can continue to improve on this, I think it's going to be really awesome for them. 12 turnovers and 11 of them steals. You got to find more ways to create havoc in the passing lanes, I think. I think a lot of their steals actually just came in like one-on-one isolation situations. If I'm not mistaken, Butler, Oweh, picking pockets, getting out and running in transition. I think that you have to be on your A game whenever you play teams like Duke. And I think this was an A- performance on defense. I think that at times Kentucky could have been just a little bit better, but this is nitpicking. This is simply nitpicking. They still held Wright State to 62. And again, they only shot 35% from the floor. So it's a massive step up again, like I said, from what we saw a season ago. If they continue to build on it, I think they're in a pretty good spot. So let's take a look at some individual performances and wrap up the show here in just a second. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's all over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, wrapping up the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky. So let's talk player performances. Offense, excellent. Defense, really solid, but I think Kentucky has the ability to show more. And I know that's kind of crazy to say, given the statistic, but I really do think Kentucky's got another gear in them, at least in terms of just overall performance. Individuals, though. Let's start here with the guy that led in scoring. Shockingly led in scoring. And that's Otega Oweh. 21 points in his Kentucky basketball debut. Ended up shooting 8 of 9 from the floor. All 3 of his three-pointers, I believe, came in the second half. 3 of 3 from beyond the arc. 2 of 2 from the foul line. The man was cooking. To go along with his 21 points, he also had 3 rebounds, an assist, 1 block, and 3 steals. He had a plus-minus of plus 31, which was second best on the team. He got out in transition. He ran well. He finished at the rim consistently. He was able to create some steals, get out, finish, dunks, layups, etc. And whenever he was open from 3, he cashed in. Not a high-volume three-point shooter, not somebody that's going to consistently create his own shot from beyond the arc. But within the Kentucky system, he can find a way to make a major impact. And if he's open, he's a plus shooter. Otega Oweh, really, really good. I mean, really good in his Kentucky debut. If he's able to stay for one more year with the Cats next season, he's going to be a stud this year. He's going to be a big-time star, I think, next season. Lamont Butler. Not second in points per game, but third. Points scored, but third. But he did so much other great stuff on the court that I can't help but shout it out first. 14 points, 6 of 12 from the floor. He had 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and a block. He did a little bit of everything. And that's what Lamont Butler did through the first 2 exhibition games of the season. He went out there and he didn't just score. He didn't just give out assists, but he grabbed rebounds, created steals. He ended up with a pretty solid plus-minus to boot, plus 24 in this game. Butler is exactly what you want as your starting point guard. Backup point guard, by the way, Kirk Risa, in 16 minutes, was 0 of 2 from the floor, but he had 5 assists to just 1 turnover. So your 2 point guards combined for 10 assists and 2 turnovers in this game. You cannot complain. There is no complaining with that stat line. Koby Brea. I said it over and over and over. For the exhibition games, I said it after the exhibition games where he was playing a little cold. He was going to lock in, and he's going to have a game very early where he plays well. And he went off. 18 points for Koby Brea in his Kentucky debut. 7 of 8 from the floor, 4 of 4 from 3. If you didn't catch it, I would encourage you to go back and watch the highlights. In the second half, Koby Brea took a 3, and before it went in, turned around to the crowd to celebrate. You know you've got a good shooter when you got somebody like that on roster who could do things like that. You hit the Steph Curry on him. 18 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. In 20 minutes of play, plus 14 in the plus-minus box. Just efficient. It's what you want. You want big-time scoring off your bench at a pretty high percentage rate. There you go. Koby Brea, perfect for you. How about Jackson Robinson kind of having a quiet game, but also contributing in a variety of ways outside of scoring? Jackson Robinson, 8 points in this game. Not a bad shooting night. He was 3 of 6. He was 2 of 5. That's 50-40. That's good. But he just didn't shoot a ton. He didn't have a ton of open looks. He had 5 rebounds to go with those 8 points, 3 assists. So 8, 5, and 3. Not complaining, especially whenever your other 2 guard goes for 21. Part of it. There will be nights where certain guys shine, others don't, and that's just part of it. You have a really balanced roster. Some guys are going to have great games. Some guys are going to have bad games. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. Not everybody has to be a double-digit scorer. Although, you had guys like Amari Williams and Andrew Carr, both who had pretty solid games. Andrew Carr, 11 points, 3 of 5 from the floor, 1 of 2 from 3, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. Amari Williams had a double-double with 12 points and 13 rebounds. He had 3 assists, a block, and a steal, but he also had 4 turnovers, a couple of sloppy passes, I think, something that I think Kentucky can clean up with better communication, better execution, trying to do a little too much at times, but it's okay. Overall, still finished with a plus-minus of plus 30, which was 3rd best on the team. Really solid stuff. Andrew Carr, by the way, plus 32, which led the team in plus-minus box. Angley Alor, the other double-digit scorer, at 11 points, 5 of 7 from the floor, 1 of 3. Again, just another guy off the bench that just plays his role so well and finds his opportunities and really has a pretty high execution rate. I mean, if he's going into games and he's shooting 1 of 3 from 3, but he's able to give you 5 of 7 off of cuts and off of layups, go with a couple of rebounds, an assist per game, in about 13, 15 minutes a game. I mean, you got to love that. You absolutely have to love that. So, Kentucky looking strong in their season opener. Obviously, we're going to continue to break down what the Cats are going to do over these next few days. Bucknell on the horizon, and then Duke waiting in the shadows next week. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at Lance_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.